Can I get 25,000 for them four songs I owe you, bro? I just want to leave, bro.
Leading up to
Were you being offered publishing deals and stuff like that during this time?
I did a publishing deal through Chris. I didn't understand any of that. So everything was through Chris. And that's why what I was trying to get to is once me and his relationship kind of got funny, he kind of, you know, the business and stuff was all held up and messed up.
It's your song?
It was my song.
Ah.
It was a separate package from the whole thing. It's like, here's your 10 songs. Oh, and guess what? Listen to this in the car. He was listening to it the whole week. And he's like, nah, I need that song. I need that song.
Kevin McCall's viral meltdown didn't just shake the internet, it reopened deep scars with Chris Brown. But before that chaos could calm down, Young Thug stormed in, stepping right up to Chris in person. What started as a quiet one-on-one talk quickly exploded into a heated face-off that had everyone in the room frozen. The leaked footage from that night showed the tension like never before. You could feel the anger, the history, and the heartbreak bleeding through every second of that clip. This wasn't just gossip. This was a real-life unraveling of a man who's been through it all. It all went down on October 20th, 2025, a date the industry won't forget anytime soon. Kevin McCall, now 40, sat down for what seemed like a normal interview on Back on Fig. But what started as a simple talk turned into one of the most shocking moments in R&B history.
I got an EBT card, my nigga. Like, what the fro? I can't even get nothing. Bro, man. Y'all want to see me cry in here. So y'all can think I'm a...
bro.
That ain't fair, nigga.
Hey.
I'm on EBT, bro.
Hey.
That's why.
Hey. Look, bro.
Calm down, bro.
I'm on EBT, Smack. Look. Say my name, bro. That shit is bad. I had to go up in that by my face with a mask, like COVID, bro.
Nobody could have predicted it. Midway through that nearly 3-hour interview, while the host hyped him up for his raw talent and past hits, something inside Kevin cracked open. His voice got shaky, his eyes looked heavy with years of frustration, and then, boom, he reached into his wallet and pulled out his EBT card, holding it up for the world to see. Right there on camera, in front of millions watching online, Kevin McCall broke down crying. It wasn't just about the card, it was about the pain, the losses, and how far he'd fallen from the spotlight. The same man who once wrote hits for major stars was now bearing his soul to the public with nothing but truth and tears. The moment hit like a punch to the chest, real, raw, and unforgettable. The industry didn't know whether to comfort him or question what led him there, but one thing was clear, Kevin McCall wasn't hiding anymore. Bro, man, that clip was rough. It was raw, unfiltered pain right in front of our eyes. It didn't matter who you were, you felt something. Whether it was sympathy, disgust, or that weird mix of both that hits when you're watching someone's truth spill out live, this moment was unforgettable. Here was a dude who once helped create some of the biggest hits of the 2000s and 2010s, songs that filled stadiums, won Grammys, and made millions. And now, Kevin McCall was sitting there admitting he was on government assistance, just trying to feed himself. It was heartbreaking and humiliating all at once. He kept it brutally real. McCall confessed that he was behind on $2,000 a month child support payments for his daughter Marley with his ex, Eva Marcille. He said he hadn't seen his kids in over 10 years. 10 years, man! You could feel that pain hit him mid-sentence. He started talking about battling dark thoughts, fighting depression, and feeling like the whole world had turned its back on him. And through tears, through raw emotion and shaking hands, he looked into the camera and made a direct plea. Chris, give me the $25,000 you owe me for those 4 songs, bro. That line echoed everywhere. McCall claimed the unpaid royalties might actually be closer to $3 million, saying a shady CBE contract finessed him out of his rightful cut. The contrast was wild. Chris Brown was out there performing on his Breezy Bowl 20 tour, pulling in nearly $100 million, singing tracks Kevin helped write, while Kevin himself was using an EBT card just to get groceries and ducking people in public out of shame. It was like watching a superstar's ghost begging for justice while his creations kept making others rich. The internet couldn't look away. And then, boom, the clip exploded. Within hours, it was everywhere. Twitter, TikTok, Instagram, you name it. The main video posted by My Mixtapez hit 9 million views in no time. The whole internet was arguing, debating, and dissecting every tear, every word. Half the crowd saw a man destroyed by the industry, a symbol of how the music business chews up talent and spits it out without remorse. They said he was a living warning about fame without ownership, about how this game don't love you back. The other half, they weren't so forgiving. They called him reckless, said he made his own mess. Some brought up his past threats and wild behavior, saying he was only crying now because karma came calling. But then, just when it seemed like the conversation had reached its peak, someone big stepped in. Someone who had the power, the respect, and the money to actually change the energy around this whole mess. Out of nowhere, Young Thug, freshly out and moving different, entered the chat. Fresh from his own battles, Thugger made it clear he wasn't there for drama. He was there to show love and maybe make things right. Nobody expected it, but that move flipped the story on its head. This wasn't just about pain anymore. It was about whether hip-hop's real ones would finally step up for one of their own. Things were about to get real. October 21st, 2025, the day after Kevin McCall's breakdown, and the internet was in total chaos. Just when people thought the story couldn't get any wilder, Young Thug jumped on Twitter and dropped a post that sent shockwaves through the whole culture. He wrote, "Kevin McCall hit me. I'll give you the $25,000 you need, and I know CB would too, bro. He a real one. Folks just busy sometimes, brother." The internet froze for a second, then exploded. It was one of those rare moments where you could feel history being made in real time. What Thug did was bigger than just a tweet. It was a statement. He was ready to come out of his own pocket with $25,000 to help McCall out. That wasn't for clout. That wasn't for likes. That was real money and real respect. And by doing it publicly, he put both Kevin McCall and Chris Brown in the spotlight in a way that demanded accountability while still keeping it love. Fans were stunned. Here was Young Thug, fresh out and finally rebuilding his life, stepping in like a peacemaker between two artists with years of bad blood. He was defending Chris Brown and trying to lift Kevin McCall up at the same time, a nearly impossible balance. And somehow, he pulled it off with class and confidence. People forget that Thug and Chris go way back. Their bond wasn't some random industry alliance. It was built through real moments, studio sessions, loyalty, and friendship. Back in 2020, right in the middle of the COVID lockdowns when the world had gone quiet, these two cooked up Slime and B, a 13-track project that had the streets on fire. The chemistry between them was undeniable. Their lead single, Go Crazy, didn't just hit, it dominated. The song reached number 9 on the Billboard Hot 100 and went 4 times platinum. It was a certified smash that reminded everyone how unstoppable they were together. But what really made that connection deeper wasn't just the music, it was the loyalty behind the scenes. When Thug got hit with RICO charges in 2022 and spent more than 2 years locked up, Chris Brown didn't fall silent like most of the industry did. He stood 10 toes down for Thug. Chris posted #FreeYSL and kept speaking on Thug's name in interviews, showing real love and concern when others stayed quiet. So when Thug offered that $25,000 to help Kevin McCall, people understood. It wasn't just money, it was energy. It was about brotherhood, about showing the world that even after everything, some artists still move with heart. This was Thug stepping back into the spotlight, not as a rapper with controversy, but as a man trying to bring peace between two people who once made magic together. And the culture, it felt that. Every word of that tweet carried weight, and fans could tell this wasn't over. Things were just heating up. So when Young Thug stepped up to help Kevin McCall, he wasn't betraying Chris Brown or running his mouth for clout. He was trying to mediate. He saw a man clearly spiraling, and instead of judging, he offered compassion while still standing 10 toes down for his brother Chris. That's real energy right there. The way Thug worded it said everything. When he tweeted, "CB would give it to you also, bro. He a real one. Folks just busy sometimes." You could tell he wasn't choosing sides. He was reminding the world that both men were human, one struggling, one silent, and that maybe peace could still exist between them. And then, in a surprising twist, Kevin McCall actually responded within hours. He commented back, "What's up, bro? I'm just seeing this, about to DM you now." For a split second, it felt like something might finally heal. Fans flooded the comments, praying this could be the start of a truce instead of another viral disaster. But of course, peace doesn't last long in this game. See, Young Thug had just gotten out of the feds earlier that year. His mindset had shifted heavy. He'd been focused on giving back, rebuilding bridges, and doing right by the city that raised him. Just a few months before, in August 2025, he'd hosted a charity event for kids in Atlanta, handing out school supplies, sneakers, and food, proving he was serious about redemption. So when he reached out to McCall, it wasn't for show. It was Thug genuinely trying to lift up another brother in pain. But if Thug's move was meant to cool things down, Chris Brown had a very different vibe. On October 22nd, 2025, Chris took to his Instagram stories, and the energy was straight savage. His post read, "Remember this, you can't walk across a burnt bridge, and you know what's funnier than a troll? A broke one." Woo! That line hit like a punch. Fans couldn't believe it. The pettiness level maxed out. Chris wasn't hinting, he was declaring war. His message was cold, dismissive, and laced with that trademark confidence that let everyone know there'd be no fixing this. He made it clear there would be no reconciliation, no forgiveness, and definitely no payout. The bridge wasn't just burned, it was vaporized, gone forever. And in Chris's eyes, Kevin was the one who lit the match and brought the gasoline. The post spread like wildfire. Screenshots flooded every platform, from Twitter to TikTok, and the culture split right down the middle. Some said Chris was justified, protecting his name after years of disrespect. Others said he went too far, kicking a man who was already down.
I just woke up, and I thought about something. If this nigga wrote all these songs that he claiming he wrote, why he ain't write no more? Oh wait, this is just one part of my house. This is life before K-Mac and life after K-Mac. Man, I'm gonna stop playing with this nigga. He's a bitch. Thank you, K-Mac. I bought this with your money. I bought this with your money. I bought this with your money. I was thinking about giving you this, but you're a bitch. But I bought this with your money too. I bought that with your money. That's the only one on the West Coast. Oh, I bought that one with your money too. I took a shit and then I bought this car. He's looking at you so disappointed, bro. You look whack as fuck. Hey, bro, I got you, bro. Here, I got prescription change up. I got you this. Do your thing. Shout out to Ray J. We got you what's coming, K-Man. I just left rehearsal getting ready for this tour. And I just thought I should just keep being petty. So you know what I did?
One thing was certain though, this wasn't over. The lines had been drawn, and the next move, it was going to get even messier. Public opinion started to swing hard in Chris Brown's favor. Roughly 70% of the online chatter leaned toward Team Breezy, with fans saying Kevin McCall had nobody to blame but himself. The streets were riding with Chris heavy, bringing up McCall's past threats and how many second chances he'd already blown. People were ruthless, saying this downfall wasn't bad luck, it was karma finally catching up. One tweet that went insanely viral summed it up perfectly. Before anyone says Chris Brown is being mean, context, Kevin McCall threatened to kill him and his daughter, Royalty. That post spread like wildfire, reminding everyone that this feud had real history, dark history. Fans argued that Chris wasn't being petty, he was just protecting his peace after years of chaos. But not everyone agreed. A growing number of people felt Chris's reaction was too cold, too cruel. They saw a man publicly breaking down, clearly battling mental health struggles, and instead of offering grace, Brown had mocked him online for being broke. To them, it wasn't strength, it was a low blow. You don't clown somebody in crisis, one user wrote, especially someone who helped you eat in your come-up days. And they weren't wrong. Kevin McCall did play a role in Brown's early success. He helped write and produce songs that shaped Breezy's sound in his prime. So when Chris dismissed him like nothing, some fans felt uneasy, calling it an ugly reflection of how the industry treats creators behind the curtain. People started digging deeper, bringing up how the music business has always chewed up songwriters and producers, leaving them broke while the stars they built live in mansions. They said it's the same story over and over. The ones who help make the hits end up forgotten, while the faces on the posters stay rich. So regardless of McCall's mistakes, they argued, if he was owed money, that's business, not charity, and he should be paid. It was messy, emotional, and divisive. Everyone had an opinion, but no one could deny. This drama hit a nerve because it wasn't just about money. It was about pride, betrayal, and the thin line between loyalty and resentment in the music world. To really understand how it all spiraled into this meltdown, Kevin crying on camera, Chris clapping back like he never cared, we've got to rewind the story. Go all the way back to when things weren't toxic yet. Back when these two were brothers chasing the same dream, not enemies throwing shade online. March 9th, 2016. That's where the cracks started showing. Kevin McCall had been silent for a long time, watching Chris dominate charts while he struggled to get by. And that day, he'd finally had enough. He jumped on Twitter and posted a message that would light the fuse on one of R&B's most bitter feuds. At Chris Brown, we need to sit down and handle this business. That single tweet changed everything. It wasn't loud. It wasn't angry. But it carried years of resentment, pain, and unfinished business. Nobody realized it then. But that was the spark that turned friendship into war and started the long fall that led to the viral meltdown we're seeing today. When Kevin McCall posted, "I tried the adult business route. I feel my kindness is being taken for weakness." It wasn't just another tweet. It was a shot fired in broad daylight, a public call-out. That line drew a bold line in the sand for everyone watching. Kevin wasn't chasing clout this time. He was demanding accountability, demanding his respect and his cut after years of feeling finessed by the same machine he helped build. He wasn't venting for sympathy. He wanted justice. He wanted a real seat at the table to talk about the royalties he believed were stolen and the promises that were broken. The kind of behind-the-scenes politics that ruin reputations and bury artists alive. But if Kevin thought Chris Brown would respond with peace, or even just a calm conversation to clear the air, he couldn't have been more wrong. Because the next day, March 10th, 2016, Breezy came swinging hard. Chris jumped on Instagram with a long, fiery rant that made it crystal clear he wasn't backing down from anybody. It was petty, personal, and explosive. Fans were refreshing their feeds in disbelief as they watched this friendship disintegrate in real time. In that now infamous post, Chris called Kevin a bottom feeder and then dropped a chilling warning that stopped everyone cold. "Keep messing with me and you won't be able to walk, let alone sing again." That line set the internet on fire. It wasn't subtle, it wasn't playful. It was a straight-up threat, thinly veiled, but still a threat that had people whispering about what might come next. And because of Chris's very public history with anger issues and violence, the comment hit even harder. Fans couldn't tell if he was venting, posturing, or serious. But either way, it was dark. The tension skyrocketed instantly. This wasn't business talk anymore, it was personal. And the craziest part, Kevin didn't fold. Despite the threat, despite the flood of hate, he stayed defiant. Instead of firing back with more hostility, he jumped on Snapchat and posted, "I'm Chris Brown's #1 fan, actually." That post had people confused. Was it sarcasm, a peace offering, a coping mechanism, maybe all three? Whatever it was, it showed the twisted dynamic between these two men. One who once saw Chris as a mentor, maybe even a brother, now being humiliated and threatened by him publicly. It was tragic, honestly. Kevin had helped write and shape some of Chris's biggest hits, had been in the same studios, shared the same grind, and now they were enemies for the whole world to see. Fans who remembered their early collaborations were heartbroken, watching a partnership that once produced magic turn into a full-blown war. This wasn't just another celebrity feud, it was the beginning of a slow, painful unraveling. The type of beef that doesn't just hurt careers, it breaks souls. And from this point on, there was no going back. He once called Chris Brown his little brother, someone he'd have gone to war for. But after that public fallout, things spiraled fast. And it didn't stop there, not even close. What came next was pure chaos. Through 2016, Kevin McCall kept bouncing between two extremes. One week he was demanding to be released from his contract, and the next, he was praising Chris's talent like he still admired him deep down. It was confusing, messy, and sad all at once. Their dynamic turned into this strange mix of love and resentment, like watching two brothers who couldn't decide if they wanted to hug or throw hands. Everyone in the hood recognized that kind of toxic back and forth, loyalty twisted up with pain. Then came June 2016 when McCall decided to turn his frustration into music and dropped a diss track titled Barushi, a clear play on the name of Chris's ex, Karrueche Tran. The track went viral on the streets fast, and fans immediately caught on to what he was doing. He wasn't trying to make a hit. He was trying to hurt Chris where it stung the most. Later, McCall even admitted that he'd used Karrueche's name on purpose just to get under Chris's skin. That move was cold, deliberate, and petty as hell. It showed just how far gone things were. The brotherhood that once made hits was now being turned into fuel for war. The tension had gone from private studio whispers to full-blown public humiliation. But Kevin wasn't done yet. By December 11th, 2017, he crossed a line that had the entire industry and fan base talking nonstop. He posted a wild Instagram video challenging Chris Brown to a fistfight. On camera, he straight up called Chris out, saying he was tired of the talk, tired of the drama, telling him to settle it like men. But it didn't stop there. Kevin threw in one of the boldest insults yet, calling Chris a coward for bringing guns to a fistfight, accusing him of hiding behind his crew instead of standing on his own 2 feet. The internet erupted. Fans were shocked, some calling Kevin brave, others calling him reckless. But one thing was clear, he wasn't afraid anymore. This wasn't about contracts or royalties anymore. This was personal. And then came the moment that symbolized the death of their entire friendship, the point of no return. In one shocking act, McCall took his platinum plaque for Deuces, the song that started it all, the hit that had launched both of their careers into the stratosphere, and smashed it on camera. He didn't hesitate, didn't flinch. He shattered that plaque like it was nothing, then looked straight into the camera and said, "Deuces to my past." That video hit different. Fans who had watched them rise together back in the early 2000s could not believe what they were seeing. That plaque represented their brotherhood, their success, their blood, sweat, and tears, and Kevin destroyed it without a blink. It was dramatic, painful, and powerful all at once. That one moment said what words couldn't. The love, the loyalty, the music, it was all gone. Two men who once shared the same dream were now locked in a feud that had turned their legacy into ashes. And for the culture watching, it was more than beef. It was the tragic end of a brotherhood that could have been legendary forever. He captioned the video with a bitter play on words that summed up everything. Years of friendship, loyalty, and legacy, all crumbling right before our eyes. It was like watching the final nail go into the coffin of what used to be brotherhood. Chris Brown's response? Just 2 emojis. A neutral face and a laughing with tears face. That's it. No words, no statement, no paragraph, just pure dismissal. And honestly, that hit harder than any insult could have. It was cold, calculated, and dripping with nonchalance. In hip-hop culture, silence like that speaks volumes. It's saying, "You're not even worth my breath." For Kevin McCall, that had to sting worse than a punch. Chris didn't even bother addressing him seriously anymore, and that indifference cut deep. And that's when Kevin did something that changed everything. On January 6, 2018, McCall crossed the line for good. He fired off a string of tweets so dark, so out of bounds, that it instantly destroyed any chance of reconciliation. Fans who'd been following their feud for years thought they'd seen it all, until that night. He tweeted something so shocking, it sent the internet into a tailspin. The post read, "Chris Brown and his seed would be in a casket if he had anything to do with me being shot. Stop playing with rumors, or I can't promise CB will make 29. I kept him alive for 7 years. Now I'm in LA." Those words stopped everyone cold. Let's be real, there's no way to spin that. It was a direct threat not only toward Chris Brown, but toward his daughter, Royalty, who was just 3 years old at the time. An innocent child who had nothing to do with their beef, and yet McCall dragged her into it. In that moment, everything changed. That wasn't just a beef anymore, it was a line crossed so deep that there was no coming back. People online were horrified. Within minutes, screenshots were everywhere. Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, every platform was lit up with shock, anger, and disgust. Fans flooded the comments calling him out, saying it was one of the most disrespectful and unforgivable things they'd ever seen. One viral tweet captured the mood perfectly. "I don't care how much you hate Chris Brown. You never threatened someone's child. That's off limits." That tweet alone racked up thousands of retweets because it was the truth. Even people who had been sympathetic to Kevin before, people who agreed that he got cheated out of money, who understood his mental health struggles, instantly turned their backs on him. There are rules in hip-hop, in the streets, in life, and one of the oldest is simple. You don't touch family, and you never threaten kids. That's sacred, period. The backlash was massive. Fans demanded accountability, and even celebrities quietly unfollowed or distanced themselves. Kevin had gone from misunderstood artist to persona non grata overnight. Realizing how bad it looked, McCall scrambled to clean it up. Within hours, he tried walking it back, saying people misunderstood him. He claimed he was quoting the Bible, referencing an eye for an eye, and that he didn't mean he'd harm anyone. that he'd actually kill for Chris and his daughter, not kill them. But by then, the damage was done. Nobody was buying it. That explanation only made things worse. The internet saw it for what it was, damage control after crossing one of the most sacred boundaries imaginable. For the culture, that was it. There was no path back. Whatever remained of Kevin McCall's credibility evaporated that day. You could feel the collective disappointment, like watching someone with undeniable talent spiral past the point of no return. From that moment on, McCall wasn't seen as a wronged artist or a bitter ex-producer. He became the cautionary tale of what happens when pain, pride, and ego finally break a man down. And just like that, the brotherhood that once built hits turned into a headline no one would ever forget. Kevin McCall tried to backpedal fast. He jumped online insisting that everyone had it twisted, that his tweets weren't threats, just hypothetical warnings about the dangers of spreading rumors. But come on, nobody was buying that. The damage was done. Whatever sympathy he'd built up, whatever legitimate points he might have had about unpaid royalties and broken contracts, all of it vanished in a single night. Those tweets buried any credibility he had left. Once he dragged the child into the beef, there was no defending him. That moment turned public opinion against him completely, and in doing so, he handed Chris Brown the moral high ground. After that, Brown didn't have to say a word. The world saw him as the one in control, calm, unbothered, and done with the nonsense. Kevin, meanwhile, looked like a man unraveling right before everyone's eyes. But instead of regrouping or trying to fix things, McCall spiraled even deeper. By 2019, he was back on social media with another wild outburst that made people question his state of mind for real. This time, he went on a rant wishing that Chris Brown's fans would take their own lives. It was dark, disturbing, and completely unnecessary. The internet collectively gasped. Again, it was another meltdown, another burned bridge, and another sign that the pain he carried had mutated into something self-destructive. You could tell this wasn't just bitterness anymore, it was heartbreak turned toxic. His words weren't just hurting Chris anymore, they were destroying him. Through all of that chaos, though, Chris Brown kept his composure. He barely reacted, rarely even mentioned McCall's name. The silence spoke volumes. Chris didn't need to clap back. Kevin was doing that job for him, sabotaging his own image every time he opened his mouth. And when Chris did finally address it, he didn't rant, didn't threaten, didn't even sound angry. In a resurfaced 2020 video, Brown threw a single icy jab that said everything without saying much at all. Looking straight into the camera, he said, if he wrote all these songs he claiming he wrote, why he ain't write no more? Oof, that line hit hard, short, brutal, and surgical. It was the kind of comment that ends arguments permanently. No yelling, no name calling, just a question that exposed the gap between where both men had ended up. Because while Chris Brown's career kept climbing, platinum albums, sold-out world tours, Grammy wins, endorsement deals, Kevin's momentum had flatlined completely. His 2017 album didn't chart. His name stopped being mentioned in rooms that used to call him for hits, and the industry quietly moved on. That contrast was painful to watch. One man at the top of the world, the other watching from the outside, bitter and broken by his own choices. It was like watching two parallel realities, one fueled by discipline and success, the other haunted by regret and rage. And the truth was undeniable. Kevin McCall's talent never disappeared, but his self-destruction overshadowed everything he'd ever created. The fall wasn't about skill, it was about control. And somewhere along the line, Kevin lost his grip on both his career and his peace. Kevin McCall's 2017 album, Man of God, came and went without a sound. No buzz, no charts, no traction, just silence. For someone who once had a hand in creating some of the biggest R&B records of the 2010s, it was heartbreaking to see. His net worth, which should have been sitting comfortably in the millions considering his contributions to Chris Brown's success, had dropped to nearly nothing. It was the fall of a man who once stood shoulder to shoulder with one of the biggest artists in the world. But this story doesn't stop there, not even close. Because while Kevin was spiraling through chaos, battling demons, losing relationships, and fighting through mental health and addiction struggles that nearly destroyed him, the world around him kept spinning, music kept moving. And Chris, he kept climbing. To understand how it got to this point, we have to rewind way back to the very beginning. Before the meltdowns, before the threats, before the heartbreak, back to when a young, hungry Kevin McCall from Watts, Los Angeles made a move that would completely change his life and set off one of the most complicated friendships in R&B history. It was 2009, and Kevin had just graduated from college. He'd been a student athlete, dreaming of the NFL, chasing touchdowns, not record deals. But fate had other plans. That year, he found himself at an industry event packed with label execs, producers, and artists. That's where he spotted a young Chris Brown, only 20 years old, standing off to the side. At the time, Chris's career was hanging by a thread. The 2009 assault on Rihanna had shattered his image overnight, turning him from a golden boy into a global pariah. He was blacklisted by radio, dropped by brands, and practically canceled by the industry. The kid who once owned the charts was fighting for survival, desperate to prove he wasn't finished, and that's when Kevin made his move. He walked straight up to Chris, no hesitation, no fear, and according to his own retelling, literally pinned him against the wall just to make him listen to his demo CD. He told him straight up that he had hits, and that if Chris gave him 5 minutes, he'd change his mind forever. It was bold, wild, and straight up street hustle, but it worked. That moment right there changed everything. Something about Kevin's hunger hit Chris differently. Maybe he saw a reflection of himself in that same fearless energy, the kid who came from nothing, fighting for a shot. Whatever it was, Chris didn't brush him off. Instead, he invited Kevin to the studio, and that invite kicked off what Kevin would later call a magical era. The chemistry between them was instant. They weren't just collaborators, they were family. Studio sessions turned into brotherhood. They'd stay up all night writing, producing, laughing, and crafting music that would soon dominate the charts. Chris believed in him so much that he officially signed Kevin McCall to his label, CBE, Chris Brown Entertainment, under RCA Records, positioning him as his protege during one of the most crucial comebacks of Chris's career. This was the comeback era. Chris was out to prove that he was more than his worst mistake, that he could rise from the ashes, rebuild his name, and remind the world why he was a generational talent. And Kevin? He was right there beside him, helping build that new sound, that new era. Together, they made fire. The chemistry was undeniable, magnetic even. The results? Straight classics that still hit today. Their first major win came with Deuces, the 2010 single featuring Tyga, a record so smooth yet emotional, it became an instant anthem for heartbreak and self-respect. The track peaked at number 14 on the Billboard Hot 100, eventually earning a Grammy nomination and going platinum. Fans everywhere knew every lyric by heart, but it wasn't just Deuces. That song opened the door for a flood of collaborations, songs that carried both of their fingerprints all over them. McCall's production, writing, and vocal layering helped Chris reshape his sound when he needed it most. Back then, it wasn't about beef or money, it was about legacy. Two artists rebuilding, rebounding, and feeding off each other's energy to create something timeless. They were brothers chasing redemption, and for a brief moment, it looked like nothing could break that bond. But of course, in this story, every rise comes with a fall, and theirs was coming faster than either of them realized. Here's where things get really interesting, and where you start to see just how complicated Kevin McCall and Chris Brown's relationship truly was. Because Deuces, that hit wasn't originally Chris's, it was Kevin's song from the jump. His creation, his story, his emotions poured into every bar. Kevin wrote Deuces from a real place, a breakup that tore him apart. It was about heartbreak, healing, and letting go. That pain was his, and he translated it into music that every listener could feel deep in their chest. It wasn't just a song, it was therapy on wax. When Chris heard it, he knew immediately it was special. He wanted in, but McCall made one thing clear. If Chris was gonna use it, he had to keep Kevin on the track. No erasing, no rebranding, no ghost credit. Kevin wanted his voice to stay right there where it belonged. Chris agreed, brought in Tyga to give it that extra spark, and together, the three of them made history. The song became an anthem. It hit radio like a storm and didn't slow down for months. Deuces went on to earn a Grammy nomination for Best Rap Rock Song Collaboration and generated massive royalties, the kind that changed lives overnight. McCall later revealed that he made 6 figures off that one record alone. For a kid from Watts, who'd been working at Abercrombie and Fitch just a few months earlier, struggling to pay rent, this was a dream come true. It was his moment, He'd gone from near poverty to platinum plaques in what felt like an instant. Deuces wasn't just a hit, it was the door that opened up a whole new world for Kevin McCall, but the run didn't stop there. Not even close. Kevin followed up by co-writing and featuring on Strip in 2011, another Chris Brown banger that went straight to the clubs and had the ladies going wild. That track peaked at number 37 on the Billboard Hot 100, proving their chemistry wasn't a fluke, it was a formula. And then came the monster hit Look at Me Now, featuring Busta Rhymes and Lil Wayne, a record that blew the roof off the charts. It became Chris Brown's first #1 single, dominating radio and streaming for months. And once again, Kevin's fingerprints were all over it, from the songwriting to the background layers that gave it texture. At that point, Kevin McCall wasn't just a feature, he was a secret weapon. His work defined Chris's comeback era, the same stretch that birthed the FAME album, a project that went platinum, earned Chris his first Grammy, and officially sealed his redemption arc in the public eye. Behind that success, Kevin McCall, quietly shaping the sound, co-writing hooks, crafting melodies, and proving he was one of the most talented voices in R&B at the time. And it didn't stop with Chris. Kevin's pen started getting attention across the industry. He co-wrote One Night Stand for Carrie Hilson, showing off his range and versatility. He was the kind of writer artists wanted in every session, someone who understood pain, love, and swagger all in one breath. For a shining moment, Kevin was living the life every hungry artist dreams about. He was at the center of R&B's revival, working side by side with one of the biggest stars in the world, creating music that would define a whole generation. The songs they made weren't just hits, they were memories. You couldn't go to a club, a house party, or even a kickback without hearing one of their joints blasting through the speakers. Back then, it wasn't drama, it was brotherhood. Chris used to call Kevin his big brother in interviews. Their sessions weren't business meetings, they were family gatherings. They'd laugh, joke, freestyle for hours, and create magic like it was second nature. They were unstoppable, a duo bound by hunger, creativity, and loyalty. And for that short but golden era, it looked like nothing could ever come between them. But, as the world would soon find out, even the tightest bonds in this industry can break when money, fame, and pride start getting in the mix. And for Kevin and Chris, the cracks were already forming beneath the surface. It was the kind of bond that should have lasted forever, the type built on loyalty, brotherhood, and shared struggle. But under all the success, under all the awards and studio magic, tiny cracks were starting to form. Like fractures in concrete, they began to spread. Slow at first, then deeper, sharper, until they became full-blown fault lines, threatening to rip their relationship apart for good. The first signs of trouble started creeping in around 2013 to 2014. Kevin McCall began feeling boxed in, like he wasn't free to be himself. The same man who helped shape Chris Brown's sound was now being told how to move, how to look, even how to act. The freedom he once felt in the studio was being replaced by pressure and control, and that started eating at him. In a 2015 Vlad TV interview that quickly went viral, McCall laid it all out. He said Chris wanted him to project a grown, sexy thug image, an aesthetic meant to fit the CBE brand. But Kevin didn't see himself that way. He wanted to be soulful, poetic, and authentic to his roots, not boxed into another man's marketing vision. The clash wasn't just creative, it was personal. That's when the cracks widened into a chasm. The breaking point came from something that, on the surface, seemed minor, but it turned into the match that lit the fuse. In 2014, actress and singer Keke Palmer, yes, the same Keke from all the viral memes, reached out to Kevin McCall as a fan. She wanted to collaborate on music, and for Kevin, it was a golden opportunity. He saw it as a chance to finally step out of Chris Brown's shadow and build his own lane. He jumped at it without hesitation. Together, they filmed the video for Shorty Wanna Ride, and Kevin was hyped. He thought this was going to be the launch pad for his solo career, a way to prove he wasn't just a sidekick, but a star in his own right. But Chris Brown, he wasn't having it. According to McCall, Chris called him up personally, and that call turned ugly fast. Brown told him straight up he didn't like the move, that the collab didn't fit the image he was crafting for his label. To Chris, Keke Palmer's clean-cut, Disney-connected persona didn't match the edgier, grown, and dangerous vibe he wanted for CBE's roster. But here's the thing, it wasn't just about branding, it was about control. Who had the power in that partnership? Who got to decide what was a good look and what wasn't? Kevin claimed Chris didn't just express frustration, he made threats. According to him, Brown told him that if he didn't fall in line, he'd make sure no label would ever mess with him again. In other words, he'd blackball him from the industry. That was the line Kevin couldn't tolerate. See, McCall came from Watts, where respect is everything. In the streets, once someone tries to punk you, you either stand your ground or lose your credibility forever. To him, Chris's threat wasn't just business, it was a violation of the code. That moment hit deep. He wasn't just being treated like a peer anymore, he was being talked to like an employee, a subordinate. And that's when something inside him snapped. This was the same man he'd helped rebuild, the same artist he'd called family. Now that man was threatening to destroy his career because he dared to move independently. From that day forward, things were never the same. What had once been brotherhood started feeling more like a power struggle. The laughter that used to fill the studio turned to silence. The mutual respect that built hits turned to resentment. Kevin felt betrayed, like his loyalty had been used against him. That confrontation in 2014 wasn't just a disagreement. It was the turning point that changed everything. It shattered the illusion of partnership and exposed what Kevin believed was the ugly truth behind the industry machine. When you stop playing your role, they stop seeing your value. For Kevin McCall, that phone call marked the end of one chapter and the beginning of a long, painful downfall. And for Chris Brown, it was the moment he decided he didn't need Kevin anymore. What came next would take that tension and turn it into open war. As the years passed, Kevin McCall's frustration only grew. What started as creative tension turned into full-blown suspicion. He began to believe there was something deeper going on behind the scenes. Kevin claimed that Chris Brown's manager had been quietly working to sabotage his solo career, blocking opportunities, shutting down his projects, and whispering in people's ears to keep him boxed out of deals. To Kevin, it felt like someone was intentionally cutting off his future before it could even begin. At the same time, the money, or the lack of it, was becoming a wound that wouldn't heal. McCall couldn't shake the feeling that he'd been shortchanged, especially considering how massive Deuces had become. The song had gone multi-platinum, racking up over 500 million streams on Spotify and still getting spins years later. Yet, according to him, he never saw the proper royalties or residuals he was owed. He said the numbers didn't add up and neither did the paperwork. McCall alleged that the publishing deal he'd signed under Chris Brown Entertainment was exploitative from the start. He said he was young, hungry, and desperate for a shot at success. So he signed whatever was put in front of him, without realizing the long-term consequences. He didn't have a lawyer, didn't have leverage, just dreams and trust in a friend who he thought had his back. But what he didn't know then was that this was one of those predatory contracts that the music industry is infamous for. The kind that traps artists, strips them of ownership, and locks them out of their own money. And once the checks stopped coming, everything else started falling apart. Kevin's deal with RCA Records, which had been arranged through Chris Brown's clout and connections, crumbled almost overnight. He later described the experience as grimy and chaotic, like a slow-motion setup he never saw coming. According to him, he was never officially listed as a signed artist on RCA's website. His recording budget, gone, spent on outside producers he didn't even need, because Kevin was a producer himself. He said the whole process felt shady. Promises were made, budgets vanished, credits disappeared. It was the kind of behind-the-scenes mess that has ended too many talented careers. But what hurt the most wasn't just the lost money, it was the erasure of his legacy. Kevin claimed that Chris Brown, or his team, removed his name from the credits on several songs, including Look at Me Now. To him, that was the ultimate betrayal. He said it felt like his contributions were being wiped from history, erased from the very records he helped create. Imagine spending sleepless nights writing hooks, crafting melodies, and helping to rebuild someone's career, only to later look up and see your name gone from the song that changed everything. That's what Kevin said happened to him. Whether it was malice, mismanagement, or just messy record keeping, it didn't matter. To Kevin, it felt personal, like a knife in the back from someone he once called brother. He wasn't just losing money, he was losing credit, respect, and recognition. His whole legacy was being rewritten without him. And for someone who came from nothing, who fought his way into the game, that kind of betrayal cut deeper than any diss track or argument ever could. By this point, Kevin McCall wasn't just a fallen collaborator, he was a ghost haunting his own history. The song still played, the crowd still cheered, the plaque still gleamed, but his name? Nowhere to be found. For the fans watching from the outside, it was a tragic ending to what had once looked like one of the strongest partnerships in R&B. Two brothers who built magic together, now divided by money, ego, and silence. And for Kevin McCall, the pain wasn't just about what he'd lost, it was about what he'd given and never got back. In the end, Kevin McCall's story isn't just about music. It's about what happens when brotherhood meets business, when loyalty collides with ego, and when talent gets swallowed by the machine. Once upon a time, two young men built an empire together. Chris Brown, the face of R&B's redemption, and Kevin McCall, the pen and voice behind some of his biggest hits. But somewhere along the line, that friendship turned into a battlefield, and the lines between respect and resentment blurred beyond repair. Kevin wanted credit, Chris wanted control, and in between those two truths, something beautiful turned poisonous. For years, McCall kept fighting, claiming he was robbed, erased, silenced, but every outburst, every rant, every meltdown only pushed him further from the legacy he helped create. The world stopped seeing him as the genius behind the hits and started seeing him as a cautionary tale, a man undone by pain, pride, and the weight of betrayal. Meanwhile, Chris Brown's name stayed in lights. The awards, the streams, the fame, it all kept climbing while Kevin faded deeper into the shadows. Two paths born from the same studio now stood galaxies apart. And that's the tragedy right there. This wasn't just beef, it was the collapse of brotherhood, the kind that money can't fix and pride can't heal. Kevin McCall had the talent, the drive, the hunger, but somewhere in the chaos, he lost the one thing that keeps artists alive in this industry: control of his story. The truth is, this saga doesn't have a winner, just lessons. Lessons about contracts, loyalty, mental health, and knowing when to walk away before love turns into war. But one thing's for sure, this story woke the industry up, because behind every hit record, there's a name you might never hear, a hand that helped build it, a soul that paid the price. Kevin McCall's fall is a reminder that fame ain't freedom, and sometimes the spotlight burns brighter than it heals. What do you think? Was Kevin a victim of an industry that eats its own, or did he let his demons destroy everything he built? Drop your thoughts below, because this one's got the whole culture talking. And if you want more deep dives like this, where the truth meets the drama and the legends meet their legacy, hit that like button, subscribe, and stay locked in right here on BarzBuzz, where we break down the real stories behind the music. If this saga had you shook, wait till you see what's next. You already know what it is. BarzBuzz got the real, raw, and unfiltered breakdowns. So don't forget to like, subscribe, drop a comment, and share this with someone who needs to catch up.